What's up, dude?
Not much, man. I've been on OpenSea. It feels good to be on OpenSea again, man. Uh, I've been off of OpenSea for a minute just because the scams are crazy.
You're sailing the waters of the open sea, the blue open sea.
I'm back on it, man. I'm back on it, and I feel new and improved. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
They got anything good? Anything notable?
Yeah, so Bankless, the newsletter. You familiar with them? The media company
Yep.
Bankless. Yeah,
Yeah, they talk about all the Dow stuff.
yeah. So they started an NFT collection for their podcast, and it's kind of crazy. What I was super impressed by is the ability for them to create like NFT inventory with each podcast release that they have, and they're doing a
Mhm.
hundred. If I remember correctly, Bankless Collectibles they do. Let me see. I'll look at the schedule. If I remember correctly, it's like 100 NFTs. Let me see the mint. Where is this at? Yeah, right here. So they do 100 editions every podcast, right? Every Monday. So tomorrow they're gonna do it. And the way it works is they have a pre-sale on Monday at 3 p.m. EST, so 2 o'clock our time, and they sell that pre-sale to their Bankless Nation. So that's all the people that hold their token and are a part of their DAO, which is pretty gangster, right? Like you have your own community, your community gets to eat first, and then the public can join in on the fun at 5 p.m. Eastern, so 4 p.m. our time, and that is just whatever is available or that's left. And the mint price does differ. So if you're part of their Bankless Nation and you're in their DAO, it's zero point zero 0.05 ETH. If you're not a part of the tribe, then it's zero point zero 0.07 ETH, which I think is also fair, right? Like if you've paid
Mhm.
already a price, you should get discounted access. So I like the unit economics of the podcast. There's 100 editions. They don't break that. So far, they
So,
have. Well, go ahead.
I have a question. So, is this the only way that you can listen to their podcast? Do you have to buy one of these NFTs?
So here's the kicker. They're doing the way I understand it is it's only their most popular podcast episodes. So
Oh,
it
like their
what
greatest hits.
yeah, like it's the guest. I mean they only have 8 collections to date, right? And so obviously everybody that they've done to date is, pretty notable, right? So they have like
Mhm.
Legion, SBF, Vitalik. Like they're not messing around, right? And
I'm already guessing that the SBF is the most expensive one, huh?
let's go see. So they actually have a market for this too, where you can go and see what's going on. So the SBF episode was their first. The floor of that is 1 ETH. They've done 35 ETH in volume on that since they've released it, and then yeah, so it has the highest floor for sure, which is surprising because they have an episode with Vitalik, and that's only zero point 0.5 ETH. So I could see someone even making the case that the Vitalik is underpriced, but Vitalik's volume is
Yeah.
also 20 ETH.
Yeah, but controversy sells.
Now I hear you on that, but I think I'm gonna get in on this. Like this is something that I'm actually excited by. Uh,
Yeah, it's a cool way to collect like part of your fandom, and I like that they're doing it as the greatest hits instead of just like, oh yeah, every single episode is gonna get this treatment because I'm assuming that they've got a pretty dense archive.
yeah, I mean, but they're treating it. It's not like you buy a podcast. They're just making collectibles of the podcast, and so there's 199 of them are just normal, and then one out of every 100 is a golden egg. So there's something randomly generated with that NFT, and then
There's a lottery, like a lottery.
yeah, and then like obviously that one should in theory be the most valuable. Um, I think it's dope, bro. I'm not mad at this at any point. Like podcast NFTs actually make the most sense to me. Like just think about it. What's a podcast you listen to?
I listen to the yeah. It's just people talking shit for about an hour a day.
All right, I remember you used to watch Joe Rogan,
I did, yeah, dude. Oh my gosh, if Joe Rogan did this,
bro.
that'd break the internet.
I think he would become a billionaire.
Yeah, I mean, he's got
Uh,
how many thousands of episodes? He's got a couple thousand, right?
I mean, well, you only have to take the greatest hits, right? So if he took 50 of his most popular shows, like, and he said, "Look, I'm going to get into NFTs," and the way I got into those NFTs is I take 50 or 100 of his top guests, top 150 Joe Rogan guests. You do X amount of additions for it. You then create an incentive as to why people should own these. So there's two things that I think you should. The two reasons that stand out to me when it comes to podcast NFTs is one, it's one of the greatest mechanisms for me as a listener to get something for supporting some creator that creates something that I enjoy. So instead of me subscribing to a subscription, I might buy one of your NFTs. If I buy an NFT, I now become a part of your community. I'm a unique wallet or token holder, which is great for the overall economics of the ecosystem. These are limited in value, so if there's 100, there can only be 100. It's not like you can just keep making inventory or selling random spots. But to get to the bigger point here is I now can get tied into the experience down the road. So if there's a Joe Rogan Experience conference, you can do something like what Gary Vee has done with VCon, right? And you now have a way to basically prove not only authenticity but also like who is like I've been rocking with you since. Like the blockchain doesn't lie. So it's like if you were a part of the Bankless market when they're and you were trading their collectibles back in October when it's launched, I mean your records are there. So if you were like you can't fake the funk. Like if you go buy them all tomorrow,
Hmm.
you can't fake the funk. You're time stamped. You were February 2023. You weren't October 2022. And I think in the long run that has value too. So you can say like who was actually rocking with this, who was the first person to do this, and you can create celebratory moments and snapshots of your holder base and just the wallets that are engaged. But you could also start to bring these assets into different ecosystems. We talk a lot about that in the Metaverse Handbook and also the NFT, a little bit about it in the NFT Handbook. But long story short, I'm really, really intrigued by this, man. I don't see too many
Yeah,
things that get me excited, but this is the economics work. It makes sense. Also, each podcast has a little bit of an audio segment. I think we might be able to hear something. Yeah,
so
hold on. We're listening to the podcast. Just want to see if it's what it
Welcome
actually
to
is.
Bankless, where we explore the frontier of
Yeah.
internet.
So they take a clip of of the podcast and they put it on the thing. So that's what'd you expect?
yeah, no, it's my mind even like even scatters around to like legendary talk show hosts and like people who do interviews, the Katie Courics of the world, the 60 Minutes, the Conan O'Briens, the late night talk show hosts. Like, you know, are most of their guests they have on just mindless marketing promotions for their for upcoming movies or albums? Yes, but are there some gems in there that like the first time a comedian made it on Jay Leno's couch or something, or Johnny Carson's couch? Like this is a very interesting way to even look at somebody's creative archive and,
I
and
mean,
and yeah, like you said, go for the greatest hits. I think that
think
that's the
about
right
DJ
way to do
Ski.
it. Yeah.
Think about DJ Ski. Like DJ Ski has notably interviewed like what the first he was the first person to put Lady Gaga on the internet. I mean, not on the internet, but on the radio. He was the first person to put Kendrick Lamar, and the list goes on, right? And he has these known uh, like facts about him. If those were all collectible moments, and you could go back and we could see it, that could be. I mean, if they were limited by nature and it was tradable and Ski still popping, it's one of those things where like you just never know.
Yeah, exactly. Because you never like you never know how many true fans you have, and this I like the constraint of 100, because I was even thinking like a guy like Joe Rogan, if he did one of these drops a week, like he could facilitate like 1,000 or even 10,000. Like he could damn near do that, but I also understand the case for just setting that really small constraint and saying, hey, we're gonna see what type of interesting growth we can see from this like ultra scarcity.
I mean, I like this model. I just think that like,
So I do have one question though for
what's
you,
up?
the marketer in you, outside of people who have great archives of content, who've done 100 episodes or 1,000 episodes. Like, what do you think about somebody who's starting up that's on episode 50? Like, they've been doing it for a few months or a few years. Like, how does something like this, do you think, fit into someone's growth strategy instead of just like monetization? Like, once you're like further along.
It's very. I mean, it creates. It's a very unique way to create community. When you look at projects like the Nouns, or you look at projects like Doodles, or you look at projects even like the CryptoPunks and the Bored Ape Yacht Club, those are all communities that everyone in the NFT or crypto space can point to, and they kind of know what the collector looks like, and that's going to be the norm for most brands in the next 10 to 15 years. Like, we're going to go towards a future where your brand has some blockchain component to it.
I like that. Put your brand on the blockchain.
Yeah, your brand has to
That
be on the
sounds like a
blockchain.
great business.
I mean, that's so. If I'm like, you're thinking about the growth strategy, it's inevitable that your brand's gonna end up on the blockchain. It's just a great way to control it. And I just haven't seen anything that just makes me that excited. Like this, the unit economics just makes so much sense. Like you already have. I'm looking at their top collectors. There's this little H word dot ETH. He has 24 tokens. They have only 8 shows, so you can do the math, right? So he's averaging what a little under like
3
2.5.
apiece.
Yeah, like 2.5 editions for each one for each show.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I would say,
I think
yeah, I'm interested. I mean, do you know any metrics about how, because their podcast is pretty big, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I know that they've had some crazy guests, but I don't actually listen to the
Yeah.
Bankless podcast, so I couldn't tell you that. But what I will say is like what I would learn from this is something that a lot of brands can copy. They can get in the game. You don't need 10,000 people to buy your product to make this work. Don't have to even use 100 tokens. You can always change the amount of tokens you mint as the demand like goes up, right? Like we've got the 1Q9X cryptocurrency, and even if I wanted to turn like everydays into NFT drops, or I take the most popular every day, every week, and say, okay, I'm going to turn these into NFTs and use NFT QT to do that, it's totally possible. You just have to figure out what are you gonna get, what are you gonna build your community around, and you have to you have to stand 10 toes down on like what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think for Bankless, because they are in the Web3 crypto space, it fits. But for others, it's one of those things where you might not even say it's an NFT. Like we looked at Russell, he didn't even really tell people that he dropped an NFT. What platform did he use, by the way? Do you remember?
It was a new upstart. La Russell was like their first major user, I believe.
Yeah, I
Yeah, if you go
forgot.
back to the NFT QT, or not
Yeah, it
the
was
old
yeah, we talked
Everydays.
about it on Everydays. It was even, right?
Yeah,
Even, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
even, yeah. So that's
yeah. Because
another.
I mean, yeah, with NFTs, it's one of those things. Once you commit, you can't quit. Otherwise, you're screwing over all the people that bought in.
I mean, this is the last point, and then I gotta go. But like, I think about putting like my portfolio of sorts, like because right now I'm in this point where I have to like make a portfolio, and why won't I just make my portfolio on the blockchain? Like, you think that's crazy?
No, I feel like we've had a conversation about this in the past, and so like when we used to do the podcast NFTQT, I feel like we talked about that with like a creative portfolio.
So like,
But
let's
like,
just
there's no reason it can't go beyond that.
if I did that, let's say I just like all the projects I've worked on, just like more so a personal pet project for me is like NFT QT, like all the things that I can legally speak to, or maybe let's say I can legally speak to. I'm just gonna make an NFT, small amounts. We already have a token, the 1Q9X token. So if you're a token holder of the 1Q9X token, um, we'll will allow you allow you to mint these for damn near whatever, right? Then
Yep.
we'll leave the rest on the public markets. We'll talk about it, seed it out to the marketplace. Why wouldn't that work?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
All right. Let me. I might need some help. I might have to enlist some people to help me. NFT my portfolio.
Hey, put
It's a crazy idea, but like I feel like you're right. Like maybe if we got it popping, it could work.
Yeah. Put your brand on the blockchain.